As we creep on ever closer to the release of the Switch 2, there's one thing that has me worried, and that is the availability of this console at launch. Nintendo did end up speaking about this matter this month, expressing how they do not share the same concern. However, I have my doubts. So in today's video, we're going to talk about exactly that and so much more. Because today is the last Monday of the month, which means it's time to go over all the Nintendo news that happened in the month of July. And as usual, I include chapters in my videos so that you can jump around and listen to your heart's content. So without further ado, let's go right into the first section. As per the norm, we're going to start with the new games Nintendo released this month, and there's actually quite a few. The biggest release Nintendo had this month was Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. I personally haven't picked up this game yet, however I do intend on giving it a go eventually. I just haven't had the time to go to town to pick it up yet, and it's not like a game that I really feel like, oh my god, I have to play day one, because it's not like there's going to be any spoilers or anything like that to watch out for. But the game does look fun, but I'll be honest, I feel like it's probably one of the games that like you'll pop in, play for a couple of days, and probably never play again. I might be wrong though. Like, I'm sure there's some people that play this and like, just, can't get over it, but again, for me, this is the type of game that I feel like is just a fun weekend and then you move on. But speaking of NES, in July, Nintendo actually released a lot of new NES games for Nintendo Switch Online. The games that were released were Cobra Triangle, Solar Jetman, The Mystery of Atlantis, Golf, Mach Rider, Donkey Kong Jr. Math, and Urban Champion. But that's not all, because for the owners of the expansion pass of Nintendo Switch Online, they also received Densetsu no Starfy 1, 2, and 3. But the kicker about this is these games were Japan exclusive, so when they did release them over in America on the expansion pack, they kept it Japanese. So they didn't even necessarily localize the game, and like, you don't necessarily have to because it's a platformer, right? Jumping transcends language. And I can totally understand why some people are definitely raising their eyebrow, but like, oh my god, you got to hear me out, Nintendo, please hear me out. You have the opportunity of doing the absolute funniest thing. Moving on to the next section, usually we talk about new rumors that appeared in the month, but there weren't any, so we'll just, I guess, skip over this and move on to the next section. So typically in this next section, we talk about all the advancements we got in Switch 2 news. Whether it be official or rumor, here's where we talk about it. But this story is a little bit weird in my opinion, because technically it has absolutely nothing to do with Switch 2, but somehow we were able to spin it so it was. So Nintendo announced that they will be releasing a new peripheral for your Switch that allows you to charge your Joy-Cons without actually like connecting them to the Switch. So I suppose you can say this is kind of like a handy device for if you have more than one pair of Joy-Cons. The only problem is, where was this at launch? Why are they only releasing it now? Plus, there's already third-party companies that are selling this exact product that actually supports charging more Joy-Cons than just two. So what's the deal with this product and how does this relate to Switch 2? Well, if you remember a while ago, there was a company by the name of MobaPad that kind of maybe leaked a potential but aspect to the Switch 2. And that is that apparently the Switch 2 will not have rails on the Joy-Cons, they will be connected magnetically. So what people are taking this to mean is that the new Switch is going to be backwards compatible in terms of the Joy-Cons. You'll be able to use your current Joy-Cons on the new console. And since the new Joy-Cons are magnetic and it doesn't need the rail, there's no way you can connect your old Joy-Cons to the new ones to charge them. However, with this device you'll be able to connect it into the dock, charge your old Joy-Cons, and use them with the new Switch. I'd be curious to hear what you guys think about this whole thing in the comments down below, because I definitely understand where people are coming from, but I don't think I'm personally just quite convinced yet that this is a sign that we're going to be able to use our old Joy-Cons with the new system. Plus, let's be real, Joy-Cons aren't that great anyway, so why do you want to use them with the new system? Obviously, the new system is going to come with their own controllers anyway, so like, I know I'll probably end up just using that instead. But yeah, I don't know, I don't think it's adding up the way that people are kind of insinuating it is, but again, I'm curious, just let me know what you think. And now it's time to talk about the general Nintendo news, and for me to be able to fit in more stories, we're gonna start off with the rapid fire section. First off, I found these two tumblers that are being released only in Japan, of course, because man, that Waddle Dee cup, I wanted so freaking bad, it's not even funny. Next, the producers of Zenless Zone Zero said that they're really open to the idea of launching this game on the successor to the Switch, which I find kind of funny just because, you know, Zenless Zone Zero is made by Hoyoverse, which also made Genshin Impact, to which Genshin Impact was supposed to be on Switch a very long time ago, but it never came. So it would be very interesting to see if this game is actually ever going to release on the successor to the Switch too, and if that game comes out, I wonder if Genshin's gonna hop over too. Next, I would really like you to bring your attention over to the flag at the Nintendo Museum because it is amazing. Moving on, there were 4 new amiibos that were revealed, and I am very upset. I absolutely love the Splatoon line of amiibos. I really like how the ink splashes up. I find they're so nice. I really want them. I mostly want the Callie and Marina amiibos just because they're my favorite between both respective groups. But unfortunately, I was unable to get my hands on any other pre-orders, so I probably won't be able to get them, and it makes me very upset. Next, I learned something new about the modding scene. Apparently, there's a whole dedicated group of people that takes old consoles and try to modify them to be as small as possible. And this specific mod is so insane. They were able to mod down a Wii to the size of a keychain. I don't know how it works, but apparently it is fully functional, so you can play Wii games, and the Wii is the size of a keychain. That's just really cool. Apparently they ended up making 30 of them, and all 30 of them are already accounted for, so if you want one, unfortunately they're all gone. But apparently there's more room for more ways in the future, so who knows, maybe you can get one someday if you really want one for whatever reason. Next up, as per usual, the Japanese get all the cool stuff. Apparently they will be getting a new collection of Pikmin terrariums. To be fair, I didn't know there was a first collection, let alone the second, but they look so cool. I think my personal favorite though is number 5. If you would like to purchase these, you can buy them over at Play Asia, and I'll put the link in the description. Next up, LEGO announces a Super Mario World Mario and Yoshi display, and it looks absolutely amazing. However, I don't have money to spend on something like LEGO like that, because LEGO is always so expensive. But it definitely doesn't take away of how cool it is. Next up, for those who remember, late last year there was a guy that sent death threats and bomb threats to Nintendo Live in Tokyo, leading Nintendo to cancel the event. Well, apparently the man that did do it was sentenced to 1 year in prison, to which, good. Next up, Nintendo also had a update for F-Zero 99, which is great to see that Nintendo is still giving attention to this game even though we are kind of far out of its launch. The way I'm interpreting this is that people are still playing the game, and if people are still playing the game, that is amazing because I would really like a new F-Zero game. I do turn on F-Zero 99 every once in a while. I do actually play the game still, but it's not like a game that I'm gonna sit there and play for hours and hours on end. But yeah, it's great to see that they're still updating it, and I hope they continue. And finally, this image went viral because a person decided to clean their Switch with isopropanol, which is some very high percentage alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, not beer. This image stirred up a bunch of different type of discourses about the console itself, the owner, the quality of the Switch itself. But the question I'm wondering is, did he start on the left side or the right? Because if you saw that it was rubbing off the pattern, first off, why'd you continue? And second of all, why'd you switch to the other side? That's weird. So now that all the rapid fire news is out of the way, we get to go into the big stuff and the main stories. But before we do that, I have a quick short message. If this is your first time here, hey, my name's Acadrien and I post weekly Nintendo videos, so if that sounds like your cup of tea, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider liking and subscribing, and without further ado, let's go right back into the video. To the surprise of no one, a lot of people are talking and thinking about the Switch 2. And like Stealth pointed out over on Twitter, at maximum, we are less than 8 months away from seeing the Switch's successor console. And as exciting as that is, there's still something that haunts me, but I shouldn't say just me, I'm not special. Because I know for a fact that I'm not the only one that has this at the back of my mind. One of my biggest concerns with the successor console is, will I be able to get one at launch? And if I can't get one at launch, how long is it going to take before they're in stores and I can actually get one? Because of course people's mind will go to the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, because for months, actually even upwards of a year, you just could never find a PS5 or Xbox Series X in a store. Now of course there was the pandemic at that time and there was a chip shortage, there was a lot of things playing against them. However, I remember back in 2017 really wanting a Switch at launch. Even though I did have money at the time to buy it, the Switch was absolutely nowhere to be found in stores. Nintendo was able to get a hold of the situation a lot faster than Sony and Microsoft were, but I mean also again, they were in different circumstances, of course. Cause yeah, I remember only being able to get my hands on a Switch around early June, which was great for me because I was able to bring it to school and I would play my Switch between exams, my final exams actually from grade 12, which is kind of really weird to think about because like that was high school and I turned 25 in like the 1st of July. Which to me is really insane to think about how long this console has been in our lives. But anyway, that's a side point. But returning to availability, during Nintendo's shareholders general meeting, there was a Q&A section, to which one of the shareholders asked a question in the same line of thought. Since one of the biggest reasons why people typically can't get their hands on a new console at launch is because of scalpers trying to buy up all the consoles and sell them for exorbitant prices online. Because of that, this shareholder asked if there was any measures being taken place to stop the reselling of its next console. And in response to that, the president of Nintendo, Mr. Furukawa, said that they do have a countermeasure actually in place against resale. And that countermeasure is making enough consoles. And theoretically, yeah, that should totally work, right? Because if you think about it, it's just a supply and demand question. If the supply is low but the demand is high, rarity brings value. But if you can bring the supply over the demand, it'll bring the prices down. So even if people, go and buy and scalp all these consoles, even if they go to sell it on the secondhand market, they're going to have so many in their basement, they're going to have to sell them at least a bit lower. But that is where my concerns start to grow and where it can kind of get ugly. Even though theoretically that's how it should work, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's gonna work. So as an example, let's just pretend that they produce millions and millions of this console. Even if there are so many, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that I can go to the store and still find one. Even if they put a one console per customer policy, it doesn't prevent this one person that wants to scalp all these consoles to find a couple of friends and family members to go and buy these with them. Because trust me, if people decide they want to be a menace, they will. So let's keep pretending. Let's say I go to the store, there's none left, they're all sold out, I go back home to go look online. And again, let's say they put a one console per customer policy on any online retailer. I would be willing to bet my shirt that people are going to start creating bots. Then these bots will be able to circumvent anything they have in place that stop individuals from buying multiple consoles. And that's why I'm wondering, is printing more consoles going to be enough? Of course, I guess you can't really count this as constructive criticism because I'm absolutely identifying the sore points, but I'm not really proposing any solutions. Not that Nintendo was going to listen to me anyways, but yeah, that's just personally how I feel. And trust me when I say, I want nothing more than to be wrong on this, but only time will tell. And in our last bit of news, Nintendo asked us a question. Who is Emio? For a couple of days, nobody knew. Nintendo dropped a very eerie trailer. The trailer wasn't long, it was only a couple seconds long, 15 I believe, and the only thing inside the video was a person standing there with a paper bag on their head. And as Nintendo fans do, we started to speculate. People got really excited because the general consensus that people kind of landed on was that this was going to be a first-party Nintendo game, a brand new IP that was going to be mature rated, which is really left field for Nintendo, you know what I mean? Because when you think of Nintendo, mature rated games definitely aren't their vibe, which made this announcement even that much more exciting. But then Nintendo decided to drop a second trailer, and boy did the mood change. Turns out this game was not going to be a new IP, it was actually a very old one. Famicom Detective Club was going to be making its return, with a new installment called Emio the Smiling Man. For those of you who do not know, Famicom Detective Club was a visual novel series that was only in Japan for the, Famicom. And earlier in the Switch's life, there was already a remake of the original two Famicom Detective Clubs. They were only digital, but it was the first time for the Famicom Detective Club games to come overseas. But yeah, people were just upset because it was a visual novel and that's not necessarily the type of game they like to play. But I suppose that's another prime example of expectations are the thief of joy. So yeah, now I want to hear from you. Do you think Nintendo can avoid the scalping issue with their next console? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, wareo!